Good morning and welcome, man. I'm sure we'll have Larry, and there's another guy who's going to come on as well, but it is close to month end. I thought I would start with a very interesting clip from a classic movie you may be familiar with. It's called The Godfather 50th Anniversary. So here we go. Oops. Should play. Come on. There we go.
Oh, fellas, everybody's here. Freddie, Tom, good to see you, mate.
How are you, Mo?
You got everything you want? The chef cooked for you special. The dancers will kick your tongue out, and your credit is good. Drug tips for everybody in the room so they can play in the house.
Got credit good enough to buy you out? Casino. Hotel. Corleone family wants to buy you out.
Corleone family wants to buy me out. No, I buy you out. You don't buy me out.
Your casino loses money. Maybe we can do better.
You think I'm skimming off the top, Mike?
You're unlucky.
You goddamn guineas really make me laugh. I do you a favor and take Freddie in when you're having a bad time, and then you try to push me out.
You took Freddie in because the Corleone family bankrolled your casino because the Molinari family on the coast guaranteed his safety. Now we're talking business. Let's talk business.
Yeah, let's talk business, Mike. First of all, you're all done. The Corleone family don't even have that kind of muscle anymore. The Godfather is sick, right? You're getting chased out of New York by Barzini and the other families. What do you think is going on here? You think you can come to my hometown and take over? I talked to Barzini. I can make a deal with him and still keep my hotel.
Is that why you slapped my brother around in public?
Oh, no, that was nothing, Mike. Mo didn't mean nothing by that. Sure, he flies off the handle once in a while, but Mo and me were good friends, right, Mo, huh?
We got a business to run. I gotta kick asses sometimes to make it run right. We had a little argument, Freddie and I, so I had to straighten him out.
You straightened my brother out.
He was banging cocktail waitresses 2 at a time. Players couldn't get a drink at the table. What's wrong with you?
I leave for New York tomorrow. Think about a price.
Do you know who I am? I'm Mo Green. I made my bones when you were going out with cheerleaders.
Wait a minute, Mo. Oh, I get an idea. Tom, you're the consigliere, and you can talk to the Don, you can explain.
Just a minute. Don is semi-retired, and Mike is in charge of the family business now. Have anything to say, say it to Mike.
Mike, you don't come to Las Vegas and talk to a man like Mo Green like that.
Fredo, you're my older brother, and I love you. But don't ever take sides with anyone against the family again.
And that's a short clip. I thought it was kind of pertinent. It was kind of interesting. 50 years ago, I believe, which was kind of crazy, I have to say. Here we go. Whatever.
Recording in progress.
Can't get rid of this AI thing. Anyway, here we go.
Life is about connection. Having a support system to lean on. And roads to endless possibility. At every turn, guiding the way, we are building the connections that move you.
One of the really nice things about Larry, and one of the reasons that we brought him to our dealership, is he's still very much aligned with our core values. So with our brand, which is thoughtful and professional service. And because that alignment really worked out well, because he was so committed to the success of others, we really knew that he was the person to spend time with our sales team, with our managers and each sales consultant. And we're just really thrilled to have a partnership with him. And so we thank him.
How do you adventure? Is it fast? Is it free? Is it clear? Is it rugged? Is it remote? For your next adventure, trust MotoClose for buying, selling, trading, and protecting all of your motorized assets. Powered by Disclose Dealership Management Dashboard, your all-in-one DMS, CRM, menu, lead gen, inventory, staff, client, and deal management solution. Disclose DMD, like a DMS, only better. Mention promo code AutoHub 2025 to get special pricing, including waived setup costs, no contract, and your first month's free.
Car dealers often underestimate the power of social media. Are you wondering why my face is plastered in your newsfeed? Are you a GM, dealer principal, or a manager at a car dealership wondering why you see me all the time on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and all over social media? Well, that didn't happen by chance. I target car dealers that are in-market shoppers for social media services, and I'm going to do the exact same thing for you so that you target in-market shoppers for your brand of customers that purchase your vehicles. During my Viato days, helping car dealers appraise and price cars, everyone was asking me, what do I do on social media? What do I do with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok? And this was back in 2016. So here we are 10 years later. I started a company, became an entrepreneur, and now I help car dealers. They either outsource their social media needs to us, or we have a training and education center where we can teach all of your employees how to do social media in-house. 90% of consumers actually follow a business on Instagram. The average adult sits on TikTok for 2 hours a day in the rabbit hole. To learn more information about it or to get a demo from one of my sales associates, click the link below. We would absolutely love to help you.
Good morning and welcome. The topic today was how dealers can avoid leaving money on the table. Now, we know dealers love to leave money on the table. At least that's what I've been told by many dealers over the years. But when you're looking at that scenario, and I actually did a show on Friday with the gentleman who wrote this book, Fail to Grow, Don Andres. He worked actually for Bozarth Ford for a number of years. And we were talking a little bit about the service side of the house because it's the fixed op show. But on the sales side of the house, I know when you're looking at purchases, especially today, dealers used to rely a little less on the F&I because there was more margin in the front end. But as you look at the change going on right now, what do you think the biggest way to increase revenue on every transaction is? And let's start with Doug, since we know Amazon obviously is pretty good at upping that, like, oh, if you bought this, you should buy this. But what do you think on the dealer side, how they can increase money on every transaction?
Well, one way we've been very successful helping dealers do is through the sale of accessories, which is generally an untapped profit center for virtually every dealership we talk to. And what we really focus on is if you develop a strong relationship with the customer in the sale of the vehicle, you get to know how their intended usage, what their intended usage is of that car. Then before ever even offering them the figures from which they're going to negotiate, offer them accessories. Personalize that purchase right then. And the way we see success is that it's a step that isn't allowed to be skipped. And once that is done, what we see is anywhere from $300 to $1,000 a car and an uptick in accessory sales. And it's highly, I mean, we know it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Customers are going elsewhere and accessorizing their cars.
Right.
Do it at the time that you're selling the car. Make it easy for the customer. Let the dealership take care of it for them. So that's at the top of my head. That's one thing that we've seen a great success with. Fantastic.
Troy, you have any thoughts on increasing front end revenue every single time from a dealership perspective? I mean, you spent a few minutes in dealers, I would think.
Yeah, once in a while. Well, I agree with Doug in the accessories piece. Not maybe it's automotive adjacent, but when I purchased a Harley Davidson, they walked me through the whole store during the delivery process. So we started out in finance, sent all the documents. but then walked to parts. They described the parts ordering process, pre-order, gave me a business card, gave me a catalog, gave me a battery tender for my bike. Then they walked me over to the service advisors, booked my first appointment. Then they walked me into accessories. And I was familiar enough with the whole store. I had some gifts in my hand. I was in a spending mood. And frankly, you need a helmet and jacket to get out of there anyway. But the way that they walked me through and introduced me to the people and showed me the departments and got me excited about it was really huge. And when I walk into a dealership where, behind the parts counter, there's like 3 old mud flaps from a vehicle that's 3 years old, or, a roof rack that's off-branded that may or may not, be appropriate. I really like when dealers embrace the boutique situation where there's clothing, there's proper racks. There might even hang an exhaust in the back to show what performance could look like. These dealerships have some square footage in a lot of cases to highlight this. And whether they do it or they don't, I think the biggest problem is when they do it badly.
Right.
So when they have 2 T-shirts, old mud guards or all-weather mats hanging from a vehicle, like I said, 4 years old, it takes away from the experience. But when you're trying to build brand loyalty, having someone evangelize for the brand because they're wearing a shirt or having a mug or what have you with the brand on it, I think is massive. People will pay for that.
Yeah, I mean, I always use the example of Harley, but also Porsche dealers to a certain degree, and some BMW dealers, I think, do a pretty good job here where they have almost a boutique in the store because they're looking at, dollars per square foot, much like retail. And when you see this in shopping malls today, I think that the future is smaller shopping mall footprint with a more money per square foot, very much like a jewelry store or Apple retail. And I think dealers, some of which should have 150,000 square feet or more of storage space where people are walking around. I think it makes sense, especially around the service department, to do that. What do you think, Brandy?
Yeah, actually, Harley is a fantastic example. I did spend some time at a Harley store in the Lower Mainland, and absolutely comes down to the process that they instill every single time, right? It's every option, everybody is introduced, every department is walked through every time, and that process really will have that longevity impact on picking up just on an overall picture. The other thing I think that dealers, and this is every dealer, they're not, we're talking a lot about AI right now, and so if we look at what will win against the majority, it's going to be relationships. And so we know that, we've talked about it, especially on the show, where I think we can pick up the most is going to be profiling your client to your sales associate better. We throw things up against the wall and we hope it's going to stick, and hey, it's a round robin system, and I'm not against those systems for fairness, but if we really want to take our craft seriously, it also comes down to profiling the client, the inventory they're looking at, as well as your staff of who it's assigned to as well.
Yeah, there was a great post. I think it was yesterday on LinkedIn. It was I think a waitress posted this where she got she got the bill back from the client, and on the tip line it said, "Do better next time." And she was all angry about it, but then she figured, okay, maybe there's something here I need to improve, because clearly there was no tip in this thing. And I thought to myself reading this, because then there's more to the story. You can check it out on LinkedIn. But I look at retailers today, whether they sell coffee or whether they sell fast sandwich or whatever it might be, like everyone's like, yeah, give me a tip for whatever reason. So and the reason I bring this forward to cars, and to Doug's point, is what I always used to sell when I sold cars was people wanted to personalize their vehicle. I think Scion is one of the brands that tried this, and with limited success to a certain degree. But when you look at, a brand like Porsche or Ferrari or Pickett in the high end, I mean, they customize everything. Like, you want the logo here, you want this, no problem, right? And the one thing that I saw this morning before the show, which was really interesting, guy comes into a car dealership, he wants a Mercedes-Benz, some fancy G-Wagon. The guy goes, we don't have that one because nobody does. So what we can do is we can put you into this one. And then in 6 months when we have that one, we'll take you out of this one and put you into that one. And I thought that was a really creative solution, especially in the high end. But we have Darren on. What do you think dealers can do?
Hey guys, how are you? Ian, I haven't talked to you for a while, and
Yeah.
I saw your on my computer it pops up meeting 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm home based today, and I went, oh, I got to see if I can get on.
Not a problem. So how do you think dealers can add money on the front end? How can they do that?
Yeah. But I didn't know what the topic was. I was just listening.
Stop leaving money on the table from a dealership perspective. Don't do that. And we all know front end grosses are shrinking because they aren't at the come in and buy what we got anymore. It's I got all these inventory. How do I sell it? So obviously they're discounting again, but how can they add every time something to that purchase, whether it be experience or revenue or customization, that's going to actually add to that revenue on the front end of that?
You know that the dealers I deal with, and okay, geez, you got me. I'm only on my second coffee.
Well, we're not asking for comedy gold. We're just asking a question. If you were a dealer, what do you think?
I was almost going to block myself out. Hey, listen, bottom line, I don't know if anybody knows who I am, but bottom line is, hey, listen, I really firmly believe in 2025. If anybody doesn't know, I do training and blah, blah, blah. And I do, my bread and butter is recruitments of new salespeople and experience. Anyway, I think, first of all, everything's face to face. This is my big thing, 2025, even me. I got to suit up, and I seriously got to go in and see my guys and dealers and stuff in my area just to say hi. And every time I walk in, if I end up knowing 3-4 people or people that took my training 20 years ago.
Right.
Listen, 2025, in my opinion, it's got to somebody. There's only a few. I don't know. You're going to probably post this, so I got to be careful what I say. But
it's already live. It's streaming. Go ahead.
When it comes down to the money on the table,
yep.
It's happening for every business, and in the car dealerships right now, I firm believer of it's all about the sales rep. If your sales team seriously doesn't have good EQ, people skills, communication skills, it goes right back to the 90s, if you want to call it. Listen, they're buying the whole package, and if your sales reps are solid and professional and really are taking care of the customer, you're always going to get that extra $100, $500, extra $1,000. You're always going to get it. It's your salespeople. And in today's market, there's some really, okay, here we go. If anybody, I don't know if you got a million people on this now, but there's some really shitty salespeople out there right now.
Yeah, there are people that aren't as good as they could be, 100%. We were talking earlier about this waitress who expected a tip and was shocked that there was a line and said, yeah, do better next time there was no tip. So I thought that was interesting. But when you look at training and you look at, training every single time, which seems to be, what I did when I sold cars many years ago is we trained every day. But when you look at technology today, whether it be a smartphone or whether it be online or whether it be, maybe young and inexperienced managers, when you look at that today, I think part of it is also just a hangover from people used to pay full price. Now I got to negotiate again. But Doug, I mean, I know you're changing the way people buy cars. Are you finding that the dealers have less training there needed or different training with the Amazon service?
Well, you know what? Before we get to that, I want to touch on something that I think could be expounded upon. Brandy, you talked about profiling, that salesperson. There's a company out there called Hive Analytics, and they take it as far as, and this company's really, I think they're really forward thinking. They moneyball everything to the degree that they know which salesperson handles which type of lead best. And when management is equipped with that kind of knowledge, then I think you can capitalize on more deals because, salesperson X might be great with the walk-up, but not as good with a lead. Salesperson Y might be the opposite. I think when you find a company like Hive that can do things of that nature, it really can help up the game and up the profitability and raise the closing ratios. So I just wanted to add that to what Brandy had just said.
That's a great idea.
I see you nodding up and down.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I love data. And of course, to know that kind of data of actually putting your clients in the right hands, it's a dual justice, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And I know, Troy, we were talking a little bit about AI at NADA. I mean, obviously, you have a lot of data at CDK. I mean, what is your thought on the data piece when it comes to training? Do you think that enhances that from a dealer perspective?
Well, I have a feeling like it's less about in the training process and more about the ongoing. And I think a skilled sales manager needs to do exactly what everyone's been saying and what Hive proposes to do. If I see somebody who's struggling with a certain kind of thing or excelling at a certain kind of lead, I'm going to put them in the optimal position to succeed for them and me. And, if I've got a person who's amazing in detail, but can't string 3 sentences together in front of a customer because they have nerves, maybe they're great on the internet.
Okay.
But, I think when we look at the way we even structured our CRM, where you can assign different inbound lead types to different human beings. So a commercial and, inbound on this website or Facebook or Car Gurus or what have you. So there's already some of that element doing it. But what I want to going back to the waitress expected tip. I'm in sales and I love salespeople. And I think salesmanship is something that I really enjoy. Like when I get sold something and I have a great buying experience, it makes me really happy. And I want to tell everybody about it. And I want to share my experience. And I want to say, hey guys, if you're ever in the market to go buy a sweater, go see this person because, oh my God, I bought 4 of them. And I really think that people will open their wallets when they're having a great experience. But if they're feeling like when they're being rushed or forced or pushed into a corner, or if you don't give me, if you don't buy this today, it's gonna be gone, or I can only get another $7 off this thing. You're below our margin. Like when we start pulling out, old tired cliches about how hard we're done by when you're sitting in 110,000 square foot marble clad Taj Mahal surrounded by Porsches. No, like you got to be genuine, and a good person who's genuine, who has skills for sales and loves what they do will win every time. Because I work in sales 24/7. I train salespeople. I manage salespeople. I've been salespeople, and I just frankly love it. I think it's great, and I'm more prone to spend money when I'm treated well.
There was a great example again this morning. Guy, I guess in an old job, he got a gift from his employer, was the Tiffany money clip, and it included a custom embroidery or whatever engraving, and he didn't get it done, so he went to the store because there wasn't a store near him, I guess. And he went to the store. He says, "Will you honor this?" And they're like, "I don't know." And they hummed and hawed for a while, and then they ended up honoring it. And now he's posting all the time about how great they are. So it was kind of interesting when you do go above and beyond that. And that's why I use that example at waitresses. I think not to beat waitresses up, but there's some that are way better than others. And Brandy, I know you work with a lot of dealers on the finance side and other things. How do you think on the training side with your tool? What's your advice there?
Well, and so that's when I wanted to create like our platform started as a menu. And for me, it was creating a menu that not only allowed a finance manager to walk through the stages, but it really was about that. Every option, every time, and even that formula will just breed even more profit. The other thing I also just even want to add though is we almost do need tools like this, because I agree with what Troy said, what Doug said. Hive Analytics, sadly, in that whole realm of what we're talking about, becomes also part of unconscious bias. And so when we have an unconscious bias where we assume things, that can play too heavy of an impact of where you might be assigning these leads. And so we're assuming that the people assigning the leads are actually in a position to be doing so, where you implement something like Hive Analytics or even consultants to take a third-party approach. All too often I've been in dealerships my whole working career. There's clicks. I've always been part of the clicks, I'm not gonna lie. There are clicks where, hey, we need a third party to come in and tell us actually what really is happening, rather than just make assumptions or go with the team that's always had each other's back. So I think there's such value in these tools that we really have to recognize comes, some honesty that we may not be ready for, but it's certainly important in today's day.
Yeah, I mean, when
you have to create a software branding that gets rid of ego and go.
I know, right? I mean, hey, I'm in the industry. I have so much ego, but you can see where it lies, 100%, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at, go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, I think it was Tony. I'm not sure. The screen just. Yeah, it was Tony. He was talking about the money, or that we're in a Taj Mahal.
Yeah. Troy. Yep.
We're going to use obviously car dealership. When I got in the business, they used to always tell me, listen, there was a trainer that used to say, and Tony, you'll probably agree with me. He used to tell me, make sure you let them know you have to feed your family. And I used to go, oh my God, I can't say that. And it was one of his lines was to say that you do realize I have a family, I have to feed my family. And it wasn't just that, there was other things he used to say. I have never in my life trained people to ever say that. I can't believe it. It's disgusting. I am so blue collar, old school, whatever you want to call it. If I was to tell my mother that we only have $7 left, or my grandmother, and I can't make it, I can't go any lower, my mother won't believe me. She's not going to believe me. She's going to look at me and go, "There's no way you can't move $7." So just from a trading point of view, Tony nailed it right on the head. I mean, nobody cares about that. But if you're getting great service, like Tony said, yeah, I'm going to refer people, and like you said about the sweaters or the shirts, I'll go back, buy another one just from the guy. And if it ends up being $300 for the stupid shirt, I might not even say, can I get a discount on the shirt? I might just buy the damn shirt.
Hey, I'm famous for overpaying for stuff. But I'm famous for overpaying for stuff and then justifying it by saying, yeah, but the salesperson was so good, I'm going to tell the story 20 times on a podcast, so it's totally worth it.
Totally worth it. I totally agree with you. I mean, you're probably like me. I'm not stupid when I buy something. I do my research, but when I do buy it, yeah, done. I don't even, it's over. And if it was a good experience, which I hope it was, or usually is, I love it. Like even going to like a computer store or something. Anything.
Oh yeah, I mean when you look at the amount of hype Apple's been generating recently on phones that aren't even released yet, I thought that was kind of funny. But more importantly, when you look at it and you look at pricing, specifically in a mall scenario or online scenario, or even in something like a shoe store, I mean, I think it's really about that level of service. And I mean, if someone's walking into a BMW store or a Mercedes store or even a Cadillac store, any high-end franchise, they have an idea of what that car costs. They've done their homework. We all know they've spent that 8-10 hours online looking at cars before they even show up. So, when you're looking at pricing and discounting, I think a lot of that is having fun with people. Like to me, when I sold cars, to me it was always like, so what you're telling me is you don't want to pay this or more. And not the first time I've heard that. Shockingly in the car business, people are saying they don't want to pay over list, but rewind 2 years ago, they were. So what does that tell you? That tells you that it's really about how you sell that product or service, but more importantly, what value you add. So when you're dealing with that discount customer, but go ahead.
Yeah, but 2 years ago, there was no selling value. It was simply, here, you want it because there's only one left.
Yeah.
I mean, the sales acumen totally deteriorated and eroded 2 years ago, and now everybody's struggling to get it back.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I remember I was in a Honda store I used to work at many years ago, and customer walked in, salesperson was standing behind the manager's desk. Oh, you want to buy this? Okay, here's the price. There was no like, do you want to buy it? It's like, here's the number. Like, let me know. Have a good day.
You know what, Doug, I'll take it a step further. This is not just a car dealership issue. And, you talk about the presumed tips. Well, I've also gone into stores where the person who's working there, and again, maybe I'm generalizing channel because I've got 4 kids under 20, so I'm allowed. But when I look at it and they're talking to me like they're doing me a favor by answering my question about a product that I want to buy, with like a terrible attitude, well, of course I'm going to walk out. And I think there's a decline in that whole, not just salespersonship, excuse me, Randy, but work ethic. And again, like I will overpay for give a shit. If you give a shit, I'll overpay. And I will come back. And I will make sure that I tell my friends. But if you don't demonstrate in any way, shape, or form that you care about me or my business, then don't expect my revenue either way. And maybe, Ian, we're sort of hijacking the questions in reverse order here, because I think it's less about adding revenue to the top line and not bleeding out revenue on the bottom or having to because you've done other steps wrong, right?
Yeah, my wife on the weekend wanted to buy one of these coffee mugs. It happened to be a Yeti one that she wanted to buy. And they actually have a store near where I am. And, you know, we're walking around the store. They don't have the one in the color or whatever they have. Oh, we only have what's on the shelf. I'm like, really? You're the manufacturer? That's all you got on staff? And then you go to another store in the mall and they have more selection of that item, and that's not even their only item. I was like, wow, like, why do you have 3 staff members here trying to sell this stuff? It was like, wow. To your point. Yeah. Agree 100%.
Can I make one quick point?
Of course you can.
Again, I don't know how to cut in, and I don't want to be.
No, that's all good. It's an open show. Like, go ahead.
Okay, cool. I'm putting together an article, and I'm doing a couple things. You know me, Ian. I do a lot of writing.
Yeah.
Over the last 20 plus years, but I'm really focusing recently on great salespeople, good salespeople, and bad salespeople. And you'll probably see it on LinkedIn or one of my YouTube, whatever I do. And yes, there are, and I think it was Tony, and I gotta wear my glasses just to see everybody's name. Sorry. The great salespeople, there really is, Tony. There are people probably exactly like you and / even me. I can't see your last name. Oh, Brandy, you were mentioning it too. But there really are natural people. Like, and I can just tell even by the 4 people I can see on the screen, there really are people that are really good at sales. I've always been pretty natural, even when I was in high school. Got lots of friends, blah, 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 all that crap. And yeah, do I say some crazy things sometimes? Sure. But yeah, I will be a bit of a focal point at a social function. Now, that's not necessarily a good salesperson, but yeah. But there really are naturally good salespeople. And you want to know what? When I do I'm a serious process scripted sales trainer. I tell people, welcome to ABC Motors. My name is this person, blah, 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 blah. But you got to have those fundamentals. You've got to have the process. And then you make a great salesperson even better. And then you can make a good salesperson, even if they don't have that, let's call it the it thing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, you can make a good sales team. They're not all going to be great, because there's always going to be a couple that are just naturally, really seriously, they are really naturally good at communicating with people. They've got such high EQs that they blow us out of the water. And yes, there really is, Troy. I was calling you Tony. Sorry about that. Troy, there really is, though. I'm a firm. There really are some bad salespeople. They should not be in the industry. But you can definitely make a good team and have some great talent on your team. But it is a focusing. So I got a little sidetracked, but I think
I always use that example of that, because if you have that sales team of 10 people, you got that 20% they're always going to outperform. The middle is where you want to move, and the bottom is going to replace. But I think what I notice a lot today, pick your retail environment, is it's like it's like the same person's training every single person. They all ask the same question, but there's no follow up or follow through. There's no thinking outside the box. It's like, did you come to the store looking for something specific? No. And then they like give up. Because that's like the only question they got. So to me,
that give up thing is terrible.
Yeah, but again, it's you've got to give them the reason. You've got to give them the reason why. Like when I was training salespeople, when I was a salesperson, when I was studying the art of sales 20, 30 years ago now, it was really about, okay, why do I need to ask these questions? What questions am I not asking? But more importantly, why should I ask those questions? And I think part of it was funny. I went to a Chrysler store. They had an interview cadence that was like something from the CIA. Like there were so many questions. I'm like, listen, dude, like, I'm not going to answer like 30 questions about why I'm going to buy a car today. Like, I understand you got this list. I get it. But it's got to be a little bit more of a flow. And I think that's the real thing when you look at the balance, right? So when you look at great hospitality, and you look at great retail, pick your retail. And when you look at great customer experience and personalization, that's really what it comes down to is how am I relating to that customer? And I'm sure Brandy could speak to this, being that she's the only lady on the panel. And I'm sure she's had some experiences in car dealers where it's like, wow, where's your husband or that kind of thing. But what's your take on it? What's your take on personalization in the car business and that kind of thing?
Well, that is where we lack on every level, not just Ford and GM, Mercedes and BMW, where customers are coming in expecting a certain level from us, and we have not provided that. They've expected this level from us for decades, and we have not provided that.
Yeah.
I also, it's interesting though, because for myself, I'm terrible when I go shopping. I want to do it by myself. I'm like a cat playing with a mouse. I'm literally waiting. I'm waiting for them to say something that I can go, it's not right actually, and it happens every time. And so, yeah, it is sad though, because again, I think that is part of profiling. If you understand who your buyer criteria are in different realms, and you actually profile and hiring of your staff, and Darren, you could attest to this with placement, you actually would be more successful understanding who your buyer criteria is and placing sales staff or sales associates accordingly would make all the difference for sure. Whether you're female, male, you know what I mean? Car enthusiast, gearhead, EV, like whatever that is, yeah, you really got to more personalize the whole experience. And that's really where you're going to make your mark in a time where AI is going to become rampant. AI is sadly going to be smarter at catering to clients' needs. So we have to really add in that human intelligence side.
Well, I see AI though as helping that salesperson who maybe doesn't have all the information, or maybe can't think on his or her feet, or maybe they don't know the history of that customer. When you look at retaining customers for a dealership or a brand, a lot of that is how am I meeting or exceeding those expectations, not only in the first sale or the first service of a car, but moving forward. Like, how am I learning from maybe what I did right in the past or wrong in the past? And that's why I use that Tiffany example. It's like they could have said, yeah, you still got to pay for that engraving. Like, yeah, that was in the past. Versus, what are we doing for that customer, right?
The difference also in Harley is that when people go to work at Harley, they all buy in. They buy in to what the bigger picture and the bigger process is. They understand the wealth that comes from introducing a client to every department. And so I think that if you had that culture coming into a dealership, if that's the dealership's culture and those who came on board understood that culture and followed it like the Bible, then yeah, you might actually see that the buy-in has to happen everywhere. It really does.
Well, I want to jump in here because
go ahead.
There's been some talk about interpersonal relationships and varying degrees of sales skill. But I really think that there's three things that could be done that would really help on a larger scale. The first is, and I've said this before, we tend to provide jobs but not give them a career. And I think that this industry has to try to adopt the mentality of, this isn't just the last resort job that I got because I couldn't get anything else. Introduce the fact that you can have a fine career in this industry. The second thing I don't think is done nearly enough, and we're big proponents of it here, is you don't see individual one-on-one meetings where you're trying to get to know the person outside of work, where you're trying to determine what are your life goals, what is it that you want to accomplish, and let's see how I can help you with that. And this job could be part of accomplishing what you're looking to do on a larger scale. We don't live to work, we work to live. And all too often that is negated and not even addressed. And the third thing is, I think salespeople, and I'm certainly guilty of this, but I'm trying to get better at it, they really need to stop selling and start solving. Everybody that we engage with has a problem or a concern or something they're trying to solve. That's why they're here. And our job is to help them solve it. And quite often the best thing we can do, to use the analogy of Ian, your wife, and looking for that, the water thing, is We don't have it, but you know what? The store down the mall has the color you're looking for.
Exactly.
Because then your wife's gonna walk away going, that guy was really nice. And I'll, in the long term, I'll probably go back to him next time because he solved what my problem was.
Yeah.
So I think the one-on-one, the career pathing, the solving problems, those would go a long way to taking the lower 20% up to the middle and the middle up to the high, and really creating that, the skill set that we're all craving for.
I have a question from LinkedIn. Do you recommend training salespeople on how to sell new customers versus repeat customers? And I guess we'll talk to Darren on that. Go ahead.
Oh, that's right. I've got so many things, and I'm only on my second coffee. I got to run downstairs. But Ian, that new repeat customer, geez, I'm finding that even in my current business, I sometimes neglect. I don't pay attention to my repeats that I've had for 20 years. Like when I said I should put on a nice clean up, have a shower, hit the road today, but I'm not going to. You got to go chit chat with those repeat customers. Total different ballgame. But that new client, and I've been saying this for years, and I think everybody will agree, that new client that you just met, you really got to really treat them like your mother or your grandmother. And if I was talking to my grandmother about buying a car, I'd be saying, Nana, listen, how much do you want to spend? Like, where do you want to be? When do you want to do? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, there is a technique of treating clients. But so new clients, I'm 100% firm believer. I'm going to be doing a seminar in my area soon with a couple other trainers and stuff. We're going to see if we can pull off a 3-trainer situation for 4 hours. We are going to yak. But my key point is qualification and communication skills. Qualification, communication. And the profiling, Brandy, that you said, profiling, qualification, whatever you want to call it, just treat people. Ian, your question was, is there a difference between a new?
Well, no. Should you train for one or both? I mean, I think.
Obviously,
the repeat is a total different game. That guy walks into the dealership, and everybody knows that guy walks into a woman, whoever walks into the dealership. You're like, hey, how you doing? Blah blah blah. Okay, you can't do that. You can't do that.
Well, I think Ian, that to answer that question on LinkedIn, obviously you need to learn how to sell to a new customer.
Yeah.
However, the way you learn it is you find out why the repeat customer keeps coming back.
Yeah.
Because that's the key to success with the new customer. I mean, we used to have an old adage in my old business, and it was called keep get. You spent the bulk of your time keeping what you had, and you spent some of the time getting more, because keeping what you had was a lot less investment heavy to keep the business, and those people invariably would lead to new business.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's how I would respond to that individual's question.
Yeah, I would say it's like the restaurant business. If the people are going there once and they're never coming back, you're in deep trouble. Like that's not a good not a good restaurant idea. And I'd say the same. It's true in the car business. Dealers are always focused on how can I conquest, how can I get more leads, instead of how am I working the leads I have. But Trev, maybe you can speak to that, since obviously on the CDK side, it's about building those relationships with customers.
Has nothing to do with CDK, to be honest. This
Okay.
is more of a, I was buying insurance for my car. I needed to buy insurance for my cabin, and I went to the local county fair, this is down in the U.S., and walked up to the guy who had the insurance tent, Kelly Insurance, Joe Kelly on his name tag, and I walked up to him and I said, well, I think you're the guy who's going to sell me insurance. He said, I don't sell insurance. I help people who need insurance to buy it. And to go back to what Doug was saying about solving a problem, everyone's got an urgent problem that's causing them pain. Sometimes they want a new car. They're bored of their old car or whatever. And the problem gets a little ambiguous. But the reality is, if a salesperson is helpful, and there's a difference between, hey, what brings you in the store today? Oh, nothing, I'm just browsing around. Okay, and then walk away, like you said, give up. Well, if the answer, the retort was something like, well, if you did need some help, I would love to help you.
Exactly.
I've been working here for a long time. I have some great ideas. Well, now all of a sudden you're valuable to me, and I can use you. Whereas Otherwise, you're just like making sure I didn't steal something. And so when I look at the whole notion of salespeople for repeat versus new conquest customers, I mean, yeah, a new customer, I want to get them in the store. A repeat customer has a lot of value because somebody in our organization did the right thing one time to make this person come back. It might not have been my customer originally. The person who sold them the car the first time might not work here anymore. But whatever it is brought them back, I would start with that. And what do we do so well? You know, things of that nature to keep them like we were talking about. But really, those people who've said yes once want to brand evangelize. They believe in what we're doing. You know, there are 10 Hyundai stores in town. They came back to this one. So I think that is a very valuable commodity, especially in this day and age with diminishing loyalty. I think those repeat customers are your gold. And, you know, there's the other notion of, you know, the tree you're sitting under, the people who planted the seed didn't live long enough to sit underneath it like you are. Yeah. And you might be, by serving a customer the first time, planting a seed that's going to help a future salesperson, help the business grow and retain. I think it's all about repeat business, but by starting that first step the right way, being someone who's going to solve a problem, like Doug said, or help be helpful, then that turns into something positive down the road that's a lot easier to cultivate, but 10 times more valuable.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the repeat business over time of a dealership or a brand, especially when that dealer years later might sell that dealership, they talk about goodwill. If I've got a high retention of those existing customers, and those customers are sending friends, they're coming back for service, that's invaluable. I mean, yeah, I know there's this number of $500 to acquire a new customer, whatever that number is. But at the end of the day, if you're paying attention to those customers who are coming back to that store or brand over and over again, that's lethal. I mean, I think that's part of what I think any manufacturer dealer group is really looking for. I mean, we've talked about Sewell in the past, and there was a big acquisition. I think it was Ashbury bought a huge amount of dealers. But at the end of the day, it's really about how am I differentiating my Hyundai store in your example, Troy, or my Nissan store or my Honda store from the other stores in market. The customer doesn't necessarily see that store as anything different unless you make it different. And I think really that's what it comes down to. If you're losing money on the front end of a car deal, you got to ask that question: am I doing the training? Are the people saying what they need to say? Are they thinking outside the box? Are they empowered to help that customer when the customer has a question? Can they create a better experience? That's really what it comes down to me.
You know what? You guys all know this. I'm sure everybody on this panel does, and anybody listening. You do know why, like the restaurant thing. I've been using that thing in my training seminars for seriously over 20 years about bad service at a restaurant. Did you know that the reason why you get a customer complaint, it's because of the untrained, unprofessional salesperson. It's not everybody else. A person walks into a dealership, and if they have that bad experience where they felt like, it just happened last week, where one of the reps said, "Oh yeah, the guy came in and he was kicking tires and he left, and I wasn't even doing the training." And you want to know what? That customer's going to leave and go, "That place is no good."
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I got another question from LinkedIn, which is should the sales manager TO every unsold customer before they leave? And that was always something that was true when I sold cars. But again, if the manager at a restaurant, the customer's having a bad experience and they don't make that right, yeah, you're going to have a problem. And I think the same thing is true with whether it be the service manager on the service side of the house, or the finance director on the finance side of the house, or the sales manager. They can't fix what they don't know is broken. But more importantly, they have the ability to do things that maybe the salesman just can't do, right?
If I was a GM back in a dealership, I'd be having everybody would be involved. Even if the guy just said, "I'm just looking," and wanted to leave, we'd all go hunt them down and say, "How are you doing?"
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, everybody needs to be involved.
Yeah.
Well,
the
issue that we see is that there's not enough sharing of information between sales and
Right.
management. I mean, you brought up the fact of, an elongated discovery session with a customer. The problem with it, obviously you don't need to put them through 58 questions, But what you do have to do is whatever the salesperson knows has to be shared with management, whether it be the sales management or F&I manager. Because the more heads that know what the customer is trying to solve, the more people that probably could help solve it. And that's really the bottom line. And, even if, I do believe that every manager, if a customer is leaving for whatever reason, every manager should do a warm, escort them out or what have you and try to save the deal. But more importantly, everybody just needs to be on the same page. We all need to know everything that's going on to the largest degree.
100%.
I'm reading. I'm in the process of. I just finished Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babbitt, and I'm on the second book now, The Dichotomy of Leadership. And one of the things they say is after every mission, successful or not, is they do a debrief. And even if the mission went perfectly, exactly the way it was supposed to go, from A to Z, every step was perfect, exactly the way they rehearsed it, they go back and say, what could we have done better? What could we have prepared for that we didn't see? What did we see out in the field that might have been a curveball for next time? And to your point, when someone's leaving the store early and you get the information on why they left, maybe, like, I'm the worst guy. I've worked in car business. If I'm in an auto mall going to see a customer, I'm going to look at every other store. And so if someone's coming up to me and they're super enthusiastic, and they're like, hey, listen, I'd love to help you today. I'll just be honest. Hey, I'm in sales. I'm just checking out your operation. I'm kind of getting a familiarization of myself. I'm not in the market for a car today, but thanks for coming up and saying hi. But if they're not enthusiastic, I'll just say no thanks. Because I just want to see if they will come and get me again, because I'm curious. But, for the most part, if someone's coming in and they're looking at a vehicle and their vehicle's not in for service, they're walking around checking something out, you have to ask the question, because maybe they're looking to see, what a new 5-year newer model of what they're already driving looks like. Other times, they might be genuinely interested if you just ask a couple questions deep. And I think, if nothing else, the salesperson, the sales manager after that conversation need to say, how did the conversation go? What did you say? Did you ask them this? How was the response? Because they can always get better. You can always sharpen that.
100%.
The best way to show that, though, is just take them car shopping. Anytime I do training, I always say, go car shopping, go where nobody knows you're in the industry, and just see what you're up against.
Oh yeah, it's bad.
So bad. It's not hard to be great in this industry. It really isn't. It's not hard to stand out, and that's all people want at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon after they've talked to 3 different dealerships. And they just need a good cup of coffee and somebody to listen,
Everybody on this panel, you guys are all doing what you do, and so do I, is because I became a trainer after a manager, and I train the people every day, blah, 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 and I was so disgusted with how pathetic it is that's why I became a trainer, and then started writing articles and training and manuals, and it's not hard, why are you guys making it so hard?
But I also love, how you said, Brandy, when you go out and you see how awful it is out there. Well, what happens when you go there and it's really good?
Yeah, you do run into that,
right?
I mean, I always use the example of I was in Tokyo and I went to a Lexus store, probably the best car experience I've ever seen, and not because it was any different than a Lexus store really here, but it was just how respectful the staff at the store were. But more importantly, how thankful they were that you came into the store. Like, that was something I'd never seen. I was like, they were just so thankful you even were there. And I was like, wow, like that was a totally different experience for me. Just because you don't see that very much. It's not like, well, thanks for coming in, at least giving us the opportunity to show you what we do, right? Whereas like other people are like, well, that guy's not buying today. So I don't know. Like, I mean, I think at the end of the day, the secret to profitability in the car business is providing an excellent level of service, learning every single time, training your staff, using the data to personalize experiences, but more importantly, giving a shit about the customer. I mean, to me, without the customer, there is no business. So how do you make that a special experience?
And that, we took this whole thing about adding revenue to putting it on the salesperson, and I think that a large part of it has to do with that, because we didn't really get into discounting and maybe I should, because Brandy's got a great answer to that question. When you're talking about keeping the top line instead of losing in the bottom line, I'm from the hotel business originally, and one of the things that I think car dealers are doing incorrectly, whether it's in fixed ops or with accessories, is when they're trying to sell something but the pricing is so unreasonably out of line for what the market is, then they wonder why people aren't buying. So for example, I can get a set of wiper blades at Costco for $9.99. They're Michelin's or they're Bosch or whatever. They're pretty nice. Or I can get a set of Bosch at my Mercedes dealership for $80. Now,
Doesn't make sense.
Well, exactly. Now, if you had a fair markup, that would be okay. Going back to the hotel business, 20 years ago, when you have a meeting in a hotel room and you have 10 people in, you want to bring coffee and juice. A jug of orange juice, 3 liters of orange juice, is $50.
Yeah.
It's insane. And then they wonder why people don't want to come back and do these add-on things. Well, we have overhead. Everybody has overhead, but not 900% markup. And I think one of the ways to increase the front end gross is if those accessories Doug was talking about in the very first question were reasonably and fairly priced to the market, maybe with a bit of a premium, because you offer an OEM product that is a premium product that's custom designed to fit the vehicle perfectly, installed by OEM trained techs. I'll pay a little bit of a premium for that, but not 5x, not 6x. No. You wonder why you don't get uptake on some of these accessories? It's because, look in the mirror. Your profit margin is unreasonable.
I used to work with salesmen all the time. They refused to even talk about accessories because they're so afraid that it was going to upset the deal. They're like, I don't want to add anything to this mix. Like, I'm already trying to balance it. And I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. But Brandy, you had some thoughts on discounting that we missed?
So, I see this so often as huge discounts with nothing for consideration of other departments. And so one thing that I did when I was at a recent RV store is every time I would sell warranty, if they purchased at time of sale, part of my close included a $500 in-house credit to service and parts. This never expired. Just as a reminder, in-house credits are intended to bring people back, not piss them off because they expire too soon. But it would always, our parts manager always upsold that by no less than 100%. Always. And so, yes, people are looking for discounts. In lieu of a discount, how about we start looking at in-house credit? Oh, we'll hold a $500, $1,000. I can't give you a discount, but I can give you something that's going to make you come back to us, that's going to bring you back. So I always thought, giving credit in lieu of discount was so sadly underrated.
Yeah, I mean, I think Apple does that better than anyone. When they try to get someone to upgrade a phone, they give them an in-store credit instead of buying their old phone. They say, hey, we'll give you $300 you can spend in store. Really, all they're doing is just incentivizing that person to buy more stuff, whether it's a phone or something else. And I think that's a master stroke.
Cost them $300.
Oh, what's a phone really cost? These $1,000 phones. I don't know.
I heard they're $10.
So we're almost out of time. So Doug hasn't spoken in a while. Doug, do you have a final thought?
No, I think that the conversation's been pretty spot on. I just think, again, as we always say, there's room for improvement. Let's just do it.
100%. Well, I appreciate the time today. If you're interested in the EV Battle Show, that's going on early next month. I'm going to be doing a show on after sales retention on Friday for the Fix Up show. So if you're interested in retaining customers in service and possibly selling another car, you can listen to that show. And there will be a couple more NADA interviews, but definitely make sure to check out Troy's interview from NADA. It's already live. And have yourself a great week.
All right, everybody do well.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate your
Thanks for
insight.
meeting everyone.
Bye.
Thanks. Thanks, Ian.
Bye.